talk around the new AFL team in Tasmania. It was announced as a fait accompli, but since then there's been pushback at the cost of the stadium. Joining me live is Shadow Environment Minister Jonathon Duniam and, of course, the Taswegian. Thanks very much for your time. There's been a fair bit of water under the bridge since you had some strong things to say about this. Where do you sit in terms of support? If the team would not go ahead without this new stadium, would you be comfortable not backing it?
Well, look, the deal's been done and the Commonwealth and the state have signed their agreement, and, of course, getting a team, the Tassie Dream, was contingent on having the stadium. Yep, I made my views known. And I don't oppose the stadium as a standalone project, but if any government is going to fund the nice-to-haves, they've got to fund the must-haves, and that was my key argument all the way along. If you're going to pay for a stadium out of that finite resource, taxpayers' money, then you've got to make sure you can cover everything else, be it health, education, roads, whatever it might be. We need to cover it off. But look, the deal's done. We've got the team. I'm not going to undermine our deal to get the team, something this state deserves. But the one thing that does worry me about this deal now is that money that's coming to Tasmania from the Labor government, $240 million. It's not in any way exempt from GST calculations, which means, in essence, if Jim Chalmers doesn't give us a guarantee that it won't impact on our GST allocation as a state, that effectively comes out of our health and education money. And so I've asked Labor federally, I know the state government have here too, whether they can quarantine that money from those calculations, but to date there's been silence. So it is a bit of a concern, but look, we've got the deal, we've got the team, let's stick to it.
So just on that point then, because initially you had things to say around health spending in terms of the state money, your concern now is specifically around that. If this counts as allocation, distribution, and if it doesn't, so it's exempt if you like, then you're comfortable with where it sits. It won't be a sort of, told you so in 5 years. If the health system's struggling, you'll just say, look, I support it, let's move on.
Well, as long as there is no direct cut somewhere else from the budget, be it in health or housing or roads funding, education support, that goes into the building of a stadium on Hobart's waterfront, then I think all is well. And I'll be watching that vigilantly. But the proposal as it stands today actually does take money out of health and education. So the ball is squarely in Julie Collins' court, in Jim Chalmers' court, in the Prime Minister's court, to make sure that that funding is exempt from those GST calculations. We've seen it happen here before when we got $500 million for the Royal Hobart Hospital and it came out of GST funding. Tassie doesn't need a dud deal.